We interrupt our program to bring you
essential services.
All right. Hi, Nahtahna. Thank you so much for talking with me. This is Essential Services. So you're from L.A Works, and
That's correct.
You deal with homelessness in Los Angeles.
Well, we mostly deal with volunteer mobilization, but one of our really our high focus initiatives are on hunger and homelessness.
Okay. Can you talk to me a bit about what about L.A Works and what L.A Works is and what they do? And
Yeah. So we are LA's largest volunteer network, and we were founded in 1991. We kind of came out of the ashes of the LA riots, when there was a really committed group of people that said, this is not LA, this is not us, and we can do something to make our community a better place. And since then, we've really been driving volunteer initiatives throughout the city with this idea that people want to give back. They don't necessarily know how, so we try to make it as easy as possible for them to give back in any way that they are interested in, whether it's once a year or ongoing at an education center or through our projects and working directly with us. We really try to make it as easy as possible for people to give back.
Mm-hmm. And with COVID-19, I imagine it's like given you a lot of difficulties, with person-to-person contact, people not leaving their houses, but then at the same time, all those issues are still there. So what are you doing? Like how have you been affected by it?
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's been so crazy, Olivia, because we've really had to completely redesign our programming in a way that met the new needs of Los Angeles. So we had to design virtual volunteer projects that did not exist weeks ago. And we've also had to prioritize our food security programs, because what we were finding is that became an ever increasing need in Los Angeles, and the volunteer base that normally volunteered, which was skewed older, had to stay home. There was this giant gap in service and volunteer support, and that's happening throughout the county. Everyone is seeing that at every level. So LA Works has really tried to heighten that and prioritize that. And definitely, we've also created support for volunteer testing sites, to have volunteer support with those, promoting blood donations, because that's actually another need that has emerged, because people aren't going out to donate blood. And we've designed a whole telesocial program which checks in on our older adults in Los Angeles to see if they're okay, see if they have the food they need. And we've done also rental support piece where we're checking to see if people have needs related to the economy, because renters have really been hit by a lot of the economic impacts that COVID has resulted in.
So virtually, how are you doing that? How does it work?
So a lot of things, thank goodness for the 21st century and video conferencing and mobile phones, because so much of what we can do now, 20 years ago, if this had happened, I don't know if we could have done it in the same way. Right. So we actually have programs that send people phone numbers that identify people as vulnerable older adults, and we call them specifically, and people do it from the comforts of their home, but we train them on video conference. And then we actually have virtual call parties. So we all get together on a video conference and do these call sessions. So we've had to be really flexible, think outside the box, work with what we have. And I've really been impressed with the team and what they've been able to accomplish.
That's cool. And I guess I'm interested in the homelessness situation. How are you assisting in that? What can be done? Because I can imagine, they're so vulnerable, especially to the virus. And then, can you just help me understand what's going on with that?
So the needs of the homeless community haven't diminished as a result of this crisis. And you probably know that LA County has some of the worst rates of homelessness in the country, in the world. And part of that is because our affordable housing stock is really poor. And the cost of living here is so high. So when you couple that with the weather, and it makes it a kind of a perfect storm of unhoused individuals. So L.A. Works has gotten involved. We actually started this prior to the COVID outbreak, where we started to really want to do more to impact this issue of homelessness. And we had this perfect community of people. They want to give back. They care about Los Angeles, but they may not know how to engage and where to engage with people around this issue of homelessness. They know it's a problem, they just don't know what to do about it. And so we actually designed a workshop, an advocacy workshop, that really focused on educating people on these issues of homelessness. Why do people become homeless? What the homeless population looks like. A lot of people think it's chronic drug addicts with mental health diagnoses, and that's not what the unhoused population of LA is. So it's a lot of demystifying these myths. And so a lot of it was education around that, but then also there was a component of what do you do next? So participate in our annual homeless count and come to this neighborhood council meeting to advocate for housing, and write letters, try to get other people signed up to come and participate or sign on or join the cause. So there were different action items. But with this the COVID-19 outbreak, we've realized that the need for food has become really apparent. And so we've really tried to focus on the people who are already hungry getting their food. So working with Regional Food Bank and Meals on Wheels programs, stuff like that. And then the other piece that we did was actually from a preventative side, which was really recognizing that people were becoming unemployed. Our unemployment numbers are unprecedented. I think something like 4.4 million people in the United States declared requested unemployment benefits this week. So we know that LA is looking. We have to not just look at the immediate crisis in front of us, but we have to look at the long-term impacts that are happening. And we know that since affordable housing was already an issue, if you have people who are just right on that edge of homelessness, that's going to push them over the edge. So what we're really trying to do is do these calls to renters throughout the city to inform them of the new laws that have just been passed to protect them from evictions and protect them from rent increases, because a lot of that information is not getting out there. So we've really prioritized kind of spreading that message currently.
And how have you been going with that? Like, is it an easy task? Are you getting through to people? Like, what's it looking like?
I don't know if you've ever done any phone banking of any kind.
No.
And I don't know, because I know you live in Australia now, but you're from...
I was in London, but it's funny because I was actually living in LA for a brief period. I arrived in early March back in Australia. So to speak to you, and it was particularly of interest to me that I wanted to touch in the homelessness issue in LA, because I haven't seen anything like it before. And and I've sort of done some research on Skid Row, and it's just like, how do you just stop this? Like, how do you help this situation? Because it's extreme. And if I could shine some light in the global community as well.
Because Yeah, so to answer your first question,
Yeah.
it's not easy. It just takes hard work. It's hitting the road. It's just calling, and when you get that hang up, or when the number is a bad number because our phone rolls are out of date or something, it's just
Yeah.
continuing to hit the ground. It's a lot of hard work. So it's been rewarding in some ways because the people we are able to help it is so meaningful to us, but
Yeah.
it's also it's just every day to do it. So but specifically, I do have some information on how COVID is impacting the homeless community specifically. That might be of interest.
Yeah.
To give some perspective on what's happening and why this is so challenging now that we have a pandemic on our hands.
Totally.
So you have you been to Skid Row?
I haven't, but
Okay.
yeah, I've looked at it online, and
Yeah.
I've looked it's it's very sad.
Yeah, it's I always like to bring my friends who are who are touring LA, who want to see all the glitz and glamour of LA. I always take them to Skid Row because I think it's something that I've never seen in my life before, and it should. When we look at Hollywood, we should offset that with some of the darker parts of LA.
It's amazing that all of that is in the same city.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you have, the celebrities who, live not that far from people who are living hand to mouth and really in danger. So the complexity of it is really challenging. So just to give you some scope. So we have about something like 56,000 homeless in LA County, right? Around
56,000.
Something like that.
Wow.
My God, I don't claim to be an expert on this.
Yeah,
so my numbers.
It's fine. I feel like we all get a bit worried when we're talking about this type of thing because we want to say the right thing, and we don't want to brush over it or make light of anything. And even when I'm talking to you, I'm so cautious. But I think just the fact that we're speaking about it and is what matters. Yeah, I think that's just an important point to put out there. That nobody knows exactly perfectly what we're talking about, but we're trying. Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So we have around that number of homeless, unhoused people. From that number, about 2,800 of those live on these small square miles that are called Skid Row. It's a very small section. It is hygienically, problematic. I mean, we had an outbreak of tuberculosis a few years ago down there, and I think we had an outbreak of typhus. I mean, some medieval diseases. It's hygienically really, really difficult to keep clean. So when social distancing it's not something that is necessarily embraced or even it's not conceptually where we're at there. We just recently had one of our rescue missions down there announced that they had 57 confirmed COVID-19 cases.
Right.
So it is at Skid Row, and that is a reality. The other problem to this is that most of the people living on Skid Row are already distrustful of the government because the government has failed them. So it's an information war that is a challenge to explain, to get out there and say this is a real problem. We have to test. So that's complicating factors, and then just to kind of figure out how to maintain hygienics and having people who work down there have access to PPE, which is the protective gear, which we are not receiving from any sort of centralized programs. So So it makes it for a real challenge.
Yeah. So what are you doing then? Like, do people not want to go down there? Do people not want to help? Like, because they're then putting themselves at risk? How do you feel? Like, are you afraid? Like,
it's so hard. I've asked myself that question, right? Because I've thought, like, if I get the antibody test and I test, it shows that I had the virus, I would be outside in a heartbeat and I would feel pushed and driven to do that. Right now, I'm doing so much work inside the home that feels very valuable.
okay.
But I know social workers are down there. They're considered essential workers. And I know from interviews that I've seen with them that they're frightened. And not only they are frightened, but their families are frightened for them. But people are still going down there. They're still doing their work. The LA Fire Department is trying to come up with a pop-up testing station. The answer really is we don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Because this virus is bigger than us, and it's bigger than our unhoused neighbors. It is impacting everybody. And if we don't identify a way to control it, it's going to control us.
So what can we do to help as a global community? What type of, is it donating? Is it, you know?
Yeah,
How, how can we help basically? How does it get better?
Yeah. You really want to do your research. Donation is I think that's the way to go. For people who are living far away. Because I've had people from Turkey actually reach out to me to try to be part of our call program. And I'd love for them to do that, but they have to use a different app to do that. And it's not
too hard.
But
so locally in Los Angeles, they can be part of the phone banking situation.
Absolutely. So locally, what I would say is come to our website, which is laworks.com/social caring. And there'll be a number of ways for people to plug in and be of service from home or out in the field. We have mask making opportunities.
That's great.
So we've really tried to figure out as many opportunities as possible. So if someone lives in Los Angeles, I would say come to our website, and they just even have to come to laworks.com and we'll direct them to where they should go. So that's locally. For someone who is outside of LA, I really believe right now nonprofits are really hurting for money because they're unable to hold the galas. I know a lot of our corporate programming has stopped because we can't collect in large groups, so we can't do large group volunteer days. So all of that funding is on hold. So nonprofits everywhere are hurting. What I would really recommend is a lot of people want to give back, and so they're going to give back to whoever has the best PR and promotion. And that might not necessarily be the place that will trickle the money down to where it's needed. So I would really encourage people to do their research. Research the shelters that are on Skid Row if they want to donate directly to Skid Row, and donate directly to those shelters, not to a fund, but directly to those shelters, directly to the food banks. There's lots of community food banks all over Los Angeles. Look one up. And you can check out their ratings on GuideStar to make sure that they're really of quality, and donate directly to them. Because when you donate to a fund, idealistically, it's really good. But what happens is nonprofits then need to hustle an additional step to get that money. One of the things I think is really important, and part of the problem with battling this issue of homelessness in LA, is that it's people tend to identify unhoused individuals as separate and different and having done something wrong. And I really want to really debunk that myth, because these are people who had a medical challenge and couldn't afford their bills and got underwater financially and lost their home. These are families who are working but can't afford the rent, and so they're living in their cars. This is the face of homelessness today, and they are our community. And we have a socially contracted obligation to support them, because it could be us.
Thank you so much. That's really, yeah, that's spot on. Because, yeah, when I was in, it's just, yeah, I've been looking a lot at Skid Row lately, and just like, it's just so, like, it's just like, why? I can't get my head around, like, the difference between me and them. It's not that much, you know? And to think it's horrific. Some of the stories are just absolutely horrible. And no human being deserves to go through it or be there. So, yeah, I think what you're doing is incredible, and any light I can shed on it and, you know, promote, help. Yeah.